Hi guys! Okay, I'm trying to get this to... I'm on my cell phone today. I've got a new computer. Ta-da! And apparently it doesn't want me to be doing this, like, straight up and down. It's just a little bit easier to prop up, but okay, here we go. Maybe? I've not done this with my phone before. Okay. There's gotta be a better way to do it. Thinking that maybe this could work as my thing, but I think what I'm just gonna have to do is prop it up against my bookshelf. So here we go. Yeah, it keeps scolding me. Rotate device. Okay. Here. We are rotating. There. Okay. Hi guys. I guess I'll just keep track of the chat over here and then like switch back and forth so I can see you guys. Yeah. Hi Grace. Glad you could make it this time. And I'm glad I could make this live stream at an hour that was like actually feasible. There. A little bit more centered. Yeah. My office right now is a mess. Right now, because I've got a brand new computer. It's not entirely set up yet. And I've got my old computer down there. It refuses to connect to the internet right now. No idea why. And I've pretty much had it with it. I basically had to use it as a desktop because the keyboard and mouse pad were completely worn out. So, bye-bye laptop. Yep. So we're at a slightly different angle today. And, like, I am in a little island surrounded by boxes and plastic and this stuff. And I don't have a webcam on my computer yet. I got a desktop. So, all right. I am ready for questions about Tolkien's languages. Give it up. Okay. I should get this out of the way. Yes. It is quite a bit nicer, I think. I was worried that my cell phone's video camera would be a lot poorer quality than the camera on my laptop, but I don't think so. I think this is actually nicer. Maybe about the same. It looks nicer on my little cell phone, but yeah. No, the light is still kind of dimmed right now. So, like, I'm facing the window right here, and then there's my, like, right here is my, my bookshelf of Tolkien stuff. So if I have to pull out the Silmarillion, I'll have to do it very carefully. So, yeah. I think this is going on all right. I wonder if the beep was really, really loud. Yeah. So, yeah. Right now it's like really cloudy. It's still smoky from all the forest fires up here in the Northwest US, and that's why it sounds like I have a cold. It's actually just allergies to the smoke. Everybody kind of sounds like this right now. And I've been sneezing all morning. Yep, nice and gray. Well, at least it's a kind of soft light, and it's not like making me completely white out. Because Fiona has a computer screen tan. She doesn't get out very much. Unless I'm like waiting for the bus, then that's where Fiona gets her sun. Is waiting for the bus. Well, too much work to do inside to go out very much. Yeah. Just a little allergy. If it kind of looks like I've got raccoon, bandit eyes, but that's because of the allergies. And my nose, like if the color thing was better on my on the camera here, you would be able to tell my nose is red. So for some reason, it seems to be bleaching out some of the red. It's weird. But yeah, been blowing my nose all morning. That's how I am. But I've got my gigantic thing of tea. Already got a good start on it. This has been helping a lot. This is the vanilla tea that I was having last time. So I've got my tea, and it's got almond milk in it, which is great. I wish there was a word for almond milk. Let's see. How would you say that? I don't think there's a word for almond. Oh, there's 4 people here. Hello, 4 people. Chat with me, ask me questions. I'm here to answer questions about Tolkien's languages. Pretty much anything I could answer. Go away, you're getting in the way. Yeah. And I'm going back and forth between here and here, where my computer is, and this is my cell phone on the bookshelf. So I can see the chat over there. The chat messages briefly pop up over here. So yes, say hello, introduce yourselves, and let's talk about Tolkien's languages. And maybe writing in general, like writing using non-narrative languages. That's how I like to call it. Sometimes people say foreign languages, but I think that's kind of misleading. Because calling a language a foreign language suggests that it's from a different country. But when you have a fantasy language, it technically doesn't really have a country. So, yeah. So I like to say non-narrative languages. I think that, is a lot broader term, and it works better. So yeah. And I'm also working, like I'm finally getting some of the writing done on a novel I'm working on. Like, mostly people know about my linguistic stuff, but occasionally I write too. So I find that when I'm doing a lot of really heavy analytical work, I have to do something creative at the same time. Otherwise, my brain kind of stagnates. Like, I don't do as well on either. I am a dragon in Welsh. Cool. Yeah, it's not very useful in conversation, unless you're role playing with somebody. Then it is really useful. So you would say, I am a dragon. There's several different ways, but I would go with Ni Amlug in Sindarin. You know what? I should have dictionaries pulled up on here. Let's pull up Elfdict and Eldamo. Okay. Yeah. The academic word search. See, Tolkien went through several. Let's see. Who are you? Mm-hmm. So, in that scenario, I'm trying to figure out, is Duch the word for you? Or is that R? So there's a bunch of different words here. Yeah, no, okay. So, another way you could say it in Sindarin is Ni Slug. And that would be more like a more generic term from a dragon. Anlug is more like a mighty dragon, a high dragon. An means high, and then the lug part is the slug that I was talking about earlier. So, and in Quenya, you would see non loka. Loka is the word for dragon, and then nan is na, which is to be, and then the n at the end would be I. So nan loka. And then there's a few different ways to approach who are you in Sindarin and Quenya. Mostly because the you part you can indicate, like if it's a group of people you're talking about, if it's one person that you don't respect very much, or like so far your first impressions are pretty awful, or one person that you're being polite to. So like a group of people, the pronoun is de, but we would make it accusative, so den, and then mutate it then. So yeah, you can use nye as well. So that would be nanye loke. Yeah. My preference is I would shorten the a in nanye. But yeah. Anyways, I'm getting distracted. So Sindarin, who are you? So if you want to be polite, there's a group of people. You say maden. And if it's one person, you're being polite to them. Malen. You know, who or what are you? Singular. And then if you're being really impolite, you would say magin. Gin is mutated of form of keen, which is the oblique version of ki, which is the nominative, and also the verb root. So, there you go. Ask me all the questions about the languages and using them in fiction. Nope, not gonna sneeze. Nope. Nope, not sneezing. Yay! I've been sneezing all morning. I think I mentioned this earlier, but yeah, been sneezing all morning. But I took some antihistamines, so hopefully that will help. And my cat was in here earlier, hanging out, being very pushy about the cuddles, but she's run off again. So yes, Sindarin, Neo-Elvish. Neo-Elvish is terms made by fans based off of stuff that Tolkien did. So, oh, there's a word for harp. Yes. Yes, and there's a verb for to play the harp. And here I can grab links for you to dictionaries. Yeah. So okay, so the noun for a harp is gannel. I'll give you a link. Whoops, I grabbed the wrong thing. Ta-da. Eldamo is very handy for this because you can link to specific words. So yeah, that's the word for harp. It's has an ancient nasal N, G at the beginning. So mutating it, you would it would be part of the ancient nasal stop group. So yeah, in Sindarin there's a word for harp, and in Quenya the word is related. It's randele. In exilic Quenya it's nandele, but in a slightly more archaic Quenya it'd be ngandele. Gotta get the velar N going. You think that because of all the allergies and the smoke in the air and such, like my nasal pronunciation would be like off the charts good, but no, I'm still too sleepy. Yeah. And the word for a harpist, it comes from the ancient words tiala, which is to play, and like a musical instrument playing. And then you the older root ingad ganad, yeah, ingandad, like that. Put those together and you get talagand in Sindarin anyways. But I think you could, there's also the verb ganna, which means to play a harp, and you could like just add the suffix for making it an agent of the verb. So gannor, like that. And that would also mean harpist. But the actual word for harpist is talagand. And it's also kind of used, I think, as a name as well. Like, how in a lot of Germanic names you have surnames like Harper or Smith or Baker, Miller, telling you their vocation. Well, Sindrian elves do that too. One of the nicknames that you can have, or aftername, you would like you could call somebody just by their profession. So there are several words that we know were used as these sorts of names. Celebrimbor is actually one of them. So Celebrimbor, not his like right name. It's more of a nickname, and because it's more of a nickname, pretty much anybody who's a silversmith can have the same name. So lots of Celebrimbor. We don't know if the Celebrimbor mentioned on the Gate of Moria is the same Celebrimbor who made the elven rings. We don't know, because it's a common nickname for elves who are silversmiths. There's also Tegilbor, which means a calligrapher or writer. Often these sorts of names, like if it involves a specific tool, they'll say like the tool and then the hand. Word power means hands, like clutching an instrument. So Celebrimbor means like silver hand. Tegilbor, pen hand. That's how a lot of these surnames work. Not surnames, nicknames. Words for, professional people who use tools. I know. Yeah. So, and that is why on my website there is a whole section for each of the languages that's just these professional names for professional nicknames. A lot of which, using the small sample of, examples that we've got, I can make more. It's like a sailor is a ship person. That's the words that she put together to make it. So, Kirtan, Kirpen, like that. Kirtan is actually, tan means maker, and mutated it's usually dan or than. So, Kirtan is a ship's builder. Kira is actually the plural. So, you can see that it's meant to be the plural because it's long. So, maker of ships. Ship's maker. That's what his name literally means. And, he probably wasn't the only elf named Kirtan, like as a nickname, because it means shipwright, literally. Which can make, going through all these names and such that Tolkien did, like names for elves, like some of them are a lot more anonymous than you would think. Like, and a lot less personally meaningful than you would think. I mean, we often think about Galadriel, Lady Garlanded with Radiance. Maiden garlanded with radiance. Okay. We often think about her and her lovely, lovely name. And Celebrimbor, the silver tree, or tall and silver. Tolkien changed his mind a few times on that one. So we often think about these. But a lot of the names that Tolkien has for his elves are actually pretty generic. Like, think about the name Legolas. It's basically a pun on his ethnicity, like the group he belongs to. So Legolas is descended from Sindarin elves, but culturally he is not a Sindarin elf. He's a wood elf. His name So the first part, leg, it means green. And everybody knows Legolas means green leaf. Yeah. So the word that Tolkien used for green is actually a very archaic one that isn't found in Sindarin very often. And it's also used as the name of an ethnicity of elves, of wood elves, called the Green Elves. And they use this word leg or lag in the other dialects of Sindarin. But the wood elven pronunciation is leg. So, yeah. So that name is like using an old word for green, connects him to ethnicity. So green leaves, green leaf. He's actually saying that his name is more like definitely a wood elf here. Definitely Carcarian wood elf. That's what his name imparts. Yeah, so Legolas, he is culturally, linguistically a wood elf, even if he descends from Sindarin elves. Okay, anybody got any more questions about Tolkien's languages? Let's pull up the chat again. Yes. Balagan would be an excellent harpist name. And I can see that there are other people watching the video, so go ahead, join in on the chat, introduce yourselves, and ask me questions about Tolkien's languages. That's what I'm here for. Because it's a very broad topic and I can talk about it for a long time. Oh, now there's 5 people here. Ellen C. Lumino Mandielvo. Nope, not gonna sneeze. Nope. No sneezing. No sneezing allowed. Oh. Yeah, forest fire season sucks, by the way. Like, a lot of the Northwest, like California and such, they're discovering the joys of forest fire season. But up here in Montana, in Missoula specifically, we get forest fires like every August. Usually August, September, sometimes a little bit of October. I don't know. My nose is awfully big. I don't know. Let's see. Profile here. Nice big nose. I have a very Italian nose. I come by it honestly. Though, having a gigantic nose like me means that I can focus on the end very easily. Oh, sorry. That was weird. Yeah. Also, see, trying not to make it so I blow my nose in the cover here, but who knows what will happen. Darbari Conlang, hello. So you must be a conlanger if your name indicates conlanging. I'm pretty good. It's smoky up here in Montana. Yeah, I'm glad I finally get to hang out with you again. I think I remember you from one of the earlier streams that I did. Yes, and we were talking about conlangs. And I still have my conlang books over there. They're kind of hidden by all this. But yeah, right there, right behind them. And I don't remember. It's been too long, and I started a job. Nope, I'm not sneezing. Nope. Trying to remember if I saw your pictures of your conlang or not. I think I did. Yeah. Oh no! You have to leave, Grace? Okay. Namarie. Have fun cooking. Big batch cooking. Is that like cookies? I hope it's cookies because cookies are delicious. But ravioli would be also cool. Yeah. Have fun, Namarie. So I've got my really big cup of tea. I think it helps. Have you done any more work on your conlang, Daudapari? Oh, I love vanilla tea. Okay. Not sneezing? Nope. You know, I should grab my handkerchief just in case. Ta-da! My office is such a mess, guys. It's like a little obstacle course to get to my chair. So, CB. Hello. Listening while cooking. Yes. Oh, what are you cooking? Kyomi aru desu kara. This morning I had pot stickers. Hi, Kimi. Kimi as in like the Japanese word for you. Like that Kimi, maybe? Also, hearts to you too. Let's see, like, if you want me to go on a spiel about love and hearts and such in Tolkien's languages, that'll be fun. So, Tolkien doesn't actually have in his later languages any words that are related to romantic love, really. There's like words for like platonic affection for people. There's a few words for that. There's words for like being devoted to something, like a cause, or being a follower of someone. I'm sorry, Darbari, I don't really remember your Latin study. Things have been really hectic over here. By the way, Kickstarter. Finally got my Kickstarter money, so yay. Relief of financial pressure so that I can spend more time working on my Elvish lessons and such. But I'm still, yeah, okay, yeah. Studying Latin is very useful if you're an English speaker. Yeah. And I'm sending out the Kickstarter benefits, or not benefits. I think they're called perks or rewards. I think that it's better to call them thank you gifts. So, yeah. Been sending those out, and yeah. And then my work hours shifted, so it's like weekdays, and yeah. Which is why the Wednesday live streams weren't working out anymore. And why when I tried to have the live stream after work, well, that didn't work out too great either, because I was already exhausted, and I was also all owie from physical therapy, so yeah. Not the greatest plan. So from now on, I think it's going to be weekends. Unless my job schedule changes again. We'll see. Until I get all of the things sent out and such, I don't think I can really quit my job yet. From the Kickstarter, I was able to get enough money for basically to cover a month and a half. So that means finish the senioring course, update the senioring phrase books. But yeah. I still need to eat the rest of the year. So yeah. Oh, you're making chicken salad. Yum. I miss chicken salads. They're usually served with Caesar dressing, and yeah. So, black speech. There's not very much to know about black speech because Tolkien didn't invent very much of black speech. He basically made just enough to get the ring phrase, or the ring poem, like the end of the ring poem. And there's also a few orcish curses that he invented that are like in the Two Towers. Other than that, not much. That's about it. Tolkien just wasn't interested in developing black speech in any like lengthy capacity. So we have a vague idea of its phonology, and we have a basic understanding of the type of grammar it has. And we know like a handful of words, but that's about it. It's about the same for Dwarvish too. Like I think as far as like sentences in Dwarvish, all we've got are the axes of the dwarves. The axes of the dwarves are upon you. That's Gimli. Also in the Two Towers, and a few place names, maybe a few character names, but that's about it. Tolkien just wasn't interested in developing Dwarvish to any great extent, or black speech. So, if you see like any Dwarvish grammars or black speech grammars out there, they're almost entirely fan-made, not from Tolkien. Because Tolkien didn't give us very much to work with. The languages he actually put some effort into were Sindarin and Quenya. Okay, Namari Darbari. Let's see, what else? Oh, so it should be Kimmy, not Kimi. Okay. So, hi Kimmy. Namari. Let's see what we have. What have we got here? Yeah. I miss eating chicken salad sorts of things, but I'm allergic to the dairy in Caesar dressing, which is what you always put with them. And I don't think that most of the non-dairy dressings are that great with chicken. So, yeah. Sounds delicious. Enjoy. All right, and to remind all the people who are lurking, go ahead, ask questions. There aren't. I know a lot about Tolkien languages, and if you're interested in writing too, I can ramble about using non-narrative languages in fiction too. So. And also, I think my cat may come in and visit, so we can say hello to her too. Nope, not sneezing. Nope, not sneezing. It's sneezing. So, Garbari was talking a little bit about studying Latin. And I think that's one, like, because Latin's a dead language, you're always studying it more from an analytical point of view. That's also the way that you study Tolkien's languages usually. You're usually studying about them rather than studying how to learn to use them. And it's only in recent, like the last few decades, that people have been switching gears and trying to teach people how to actually use them, use Tolkien's languages. So that's a fun thing. Nope, not sneezing. Sorry. Ah. So yes, ask me about Tolkien languages or conlanging. I can share my own conlanging project, like back from when I was a teenager in high school, and I didn't know very much about languages yet, and just had that one. At that point, I hadn't even studied French yet. I just had like a 6-week course on Spanish at that point. Yeah. I was desperate to get any sort of language, so I was making my own. There we go. And yes, my room is a maze. Ta-da! Let's see if we can get that nice and clear. Here we go. That says Isengard. And this is some more of the writing system that I was developing for it. Oh, and here is the map I made. Yeah. Nope. It's gonna dribble. Okay. So, yeah. And I had a notebook, and the notebook started falling apart, so I put the notebook into this folder here. But yeah, you can see how worn out the pages are. But yeah, I didn't really have an understanding of phonology yet back then, because I was a teenager. So, the charts I have for the phonology are a little quirky. Don't actually work. Like, I was coming up with my own categories for the sounds, and I didn't really understand how it would work. So, here we go. Yeah, here's the categories of phonetic sounds that I came up with. Buzzed, voiceless buzz, trans, sung, voiced, unvoiced, diphthongs, and vowels. So yeah, my phonetic charts were not exactly very coherent back then, because I didn't understand how it actually all worked. I don't even have the columns marked, like, yeah. Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess. But, you know, that was before a degree in linguistics. What do I think about seeing writers use or attempt Tolkien's languages in their fiction works? Do you mean like fan fiction writers, or do you mean like professional writers? In fact, you know what? I don't think there's actually much of a distinction there. It's more about how you use it. You know, most writers do not have a degree in linguistics, so they can't make a very good conlang. So, okay, so when you're using a okay, so a mistake that a lot of conlangers make is they take the language that they already speak and they remix the sounds a little bit. They don't actually build a coherent phonology like me when I was a kid. The sounds that I had in my conlang were all sounds that we have in English. I didn't fully understand that languages, you know, don't share the same phonologies. And the way I tried to make it different is that I just restricted it to cut out some of the sounds. But I didn't do it in a way that was actually how a real language would be structured. So languages reuse place and manner of articulation. That's why phonetic charts are so incredibly useful. So you have the columns, which are where the sound is made in the mouth. And you have the rows, which are how the sound is made. And languages usually only use a few of each. So, English, how many places of articulation? And I'm talking about places of articulation that distinguish words between each other, not allophones. So the sounds that differentiate words between each other, the phonemes, are really, really important when you're making a language. And you can have fun with the allophones next step. Um, so in English, places of articulation, we've got lips, um, just behind the teeth or just behind the teeth. Then the alveolar ridge behind the teeth. This should be faced like this so I can show you guys. All the way back. So the alveolar ridge behind your teeth. Like if you take your tongue and you can feel it. Then there's the palate. There's different parts of the palate that you can use. The palate's the soft spot where peanut butter gets stuck. You know, it's shaped kind of like that. So run your tongue over that. And then once you get to the back of the palate, you're in the velar area. That's the back of the mouth. And then behind that, you've got the uvula and then the throat. So, in English, well, we don't have very many places of articulation. So basically, a sound in a language can happen at any point from lip all the way to the throat. So that is an infinite possibility of places of articulation, but we usually only generalize to a few areas. They're human languages, anyways. Only generalize to a few areas of articulation. In English, we've got lips, the alveolar ridge behind the teeth, or interdental sounds. We have a few of those. You stick your tongue between your teeth and blow air through it. So that's 3, and then we've got the palate, which is 4, and then the velar area, which is 5, and then pretty much every human language, has the 6th spot, which is the throat. The throat is where you get the an H or or like in the word uh-oh, you have that really sudden start. That's the glottis releasing like really fast, kind of like a stop. Stop is where you stop the air and then release it in a little explosion. So you have an infinite possibility of places of articulation, but languages don't use that many. And different types of sound usually, like different manners of articulation usually have a different number of places of articulation. Like stops, I don't see very many languages that have more than 4 places of articulation for stops. So stops, you're stopping the air, releasing a little explosion. That's your t, d, k, g, p, b sorts of sounds. English, we've only got 3 places of articulation for stops. The thing about stops is that they're actually really hard to tell the difference between each other because as a sound, they are so short. And sounds also tend to be spread out in the mouth. So you have the maximum amount of differentiation between them. So, take the English stops here. So labial, p, b, p, b, t, d, k, g. Like that. Maximum amount of differentiation. But a lot of fantasy languages and such like this, they'll say things like it's only got P's and K's and D's. So they'll have like maybe there's a palatal stop that you find in a lot of languages. A lot of languages have 4 places of articulation instead of 3. European languages, anyways. Though I'm being kind of vague here. So, Indo-European languages used to have 4 spots of articulation, and it's often written with a C, I believe. So you have, kind of sounds like a different K to English speakers anyways. So you have t, k, k, like that. Sounds a little bit differently. By the way, if you want to be a conlanger, you're going to have to get used to making weird noises a lot. It's a lot of fun. Definitely suggest making weird noises and weirding out everybody around you, because they better get used to it. So yeah, amateurs who don't know how languages work, like they'll group all of the sounds at one end or the other. They won't realize that languages have 2 forces pulling on them at all times, and that is ease of articulation versus the ability to tell the difference between words, to ease of communication versus ease of articulation. So you want to be able to communicate clearly, and you also want to be able to say things easily. So, on the saying things easily, you have languages reusing the place and manner of articulation one. So, if you've got a fricative, which is when you blow, pressurize air, so that sort of sounds. All those sounds. Yeah, that was fun too. I like making that sound. So, if you've got a stop, which has a alveolar sound, then you're probably going to also have a fricative with an alveolar sound. So, in English, that's t, d, then fricatives, s, and z, like that. So you're reusing the manner or the place of articulation through different manners of articulation. And that's something that languages do a lot of. And it also means that language, and then on the other end, another force of language change and how you get these interesting patterns in phonetic charts is, being able to communicate clearly. So in order to communicate clearly, you've got to have, the sounds as far apart from each other in the mouth so you can tell the difference between them. So the sounds are pushed apart by this force, which is why, the stops, which are quite hard to tell the difference between. You've got, lips, center of the mouth, the alveolar edge, and then the back of the mouth, like that. So this is a very, very basic part of making a conlang, setting up the phonetic chart. And I think that this is a part where most amateur conlangers who don't have any sort of linguistic experience fall apart. It's because they just, they don't have the experience studying languages to see these patterns and to realize that these 2 major forces pulling on language, would have this particular effect. So you'll have often, like conlangs, they'll have really lopsided and irregularly shaped phonetic charts. And, there always is a little bit of asymmetry in phonetic charts because language is changing. English, for example, we're missing alveolar fricatives. Unless some dialects still have them, but we've lost them for the most part. Like, we no longer say ticht. We say tight. The sound there, that's been lost. Um, but we still have in like some loan words. I believe that Scottish dialects still have it, but it's often lost in those specific words like light, licht, no longer in there. But instead, what they say is loch, loch. So, like, their native Scottish words, like they'll retain the velar fricatives, but in most dialects of English, the velar fricative has been lost completely. That means that our phonetic chart, when it gets to the fricatives, is kind of lopsided. It's like we've got a whole bunch of sounds all the way up to the palate, but not the other end. And I think that, one of the, like, if we were going to predict changes to happen in the language, and this is actually really hard to do because languages don't change very predictably, not even phonetically change very predictably. Like, you can't put a timeline to it. No. So, something I predict may happen, eventually, is that we're going to have something filling that velar slot. I also think that the TH sounds, the th sounds, probably are going to get lost too. Already, like, sometimes people are mixing them up with V's, which is very understandable or V's and F's, because V's and F's are actually bilabial and dental at the same time. So labial dental is what they're called. So when you're making, everybody at home, make a V sound, and feel what your mouth is doing. So when you're making a V sound, your top teeth, bottom lip. That's what you're doing. And the interdental sounds, which is two teeth, tongue stuck in the middle. It's kind of hard they're such similar shapes that it's they make similar sounds, which is why they're starting to blend, and I think that's what's going to happen. Yeah, and that's another thing that happens. Is often getting replaced with t, and d is replacing the. So you'll have people saying the word they, day. And I used to do that when I was really, really, really little too. Little Fiona didn't understand fricatives very well. Little Fiona called herself Dita. I think it's like a version of Nina. Like, I must have heard. Okay, Nina was actually the name of our pet dog. So, Nina, I think that's where we get that. My mom was studying Spanish at the time, and I had a new baby brother who was a Nino. So I called him, and all babies, Dido. So, yeah, it was, that's same place of articulation, just different manners of articulation happening there. So an N, you're pushing the air through your nose. That's why it sounds. That's the nasal sound. You're putting it through your nose. This is N's, M's, Ang's, like that. So I wasn't very good at those, and I turned them into stops when I was a little baby. So, Dita from Nina and Dido from Nino. Um, okay, I got majorly sidetracked there. So yeah, beginner conlangers, reusing English phonemes, and lopsided phonetic charts, and it's usually pretty obvious in their the words and names that they come up with. One way that I see people get around this is they'll use real world languages in place of their fantasy language, and they'll just kind of bastardize it, simplify the grammar a bit. They're not like real translators. Though sometimes I see things that are like, I just ran it through Babelfish or Google Translate, and then change the spelling a little bit. Ta-da! It's like, ooh, the laziness is palpable. It really bugs me when people have really lazy conlangs. But yeah, so you're writing a fantasy novel. You've got elves or elf-like creatures in it. You want them to be speaking something cool in Elvish that the main character who's stumbling upon them won't be able to understand. Then snork. Sorry. Then I see people like making their own version of Tolkien's languages, and it's usually not really comparable, not very good. But when you want to do that yourself, what you got to do is you've got to study phonology and a little bit of historical linguistics. Here, I'll grab some books because right now you are on my bookshelf, so I will grab some linguistics books here. Here's one that's really handy. This is, let me get this nice and close so you can see. This is the Phonetic Symbol Guide, 2nd edition. It's by Geoffrey K. Pullum and William A. Ladusall. This is great. This book is so useful. It's got a whole bunch of phonetic symbols used over many years of linguistics studying. So you can use this to help understand linguistic papers and such from like 100 years ago. Very, very handy. Definitely suggest it. Tolkien used some irregular phonetic symbols in his writings on his languages, so this really handy. Okay, so first you need to understand how the sounds are made and like how we tell the difference between the sounds. So you'll want this, A Course in Phonetics by Peter Ladefoged. This is the 6th edition. Back when I was going to college, we still got like CD-ROMs in our books, so this is the CD-ROM. It's got recordings and such, just demonstrating different sounds and helping you practice your phonetic transcription. So, really handy, really useful. It's a short book, but it's got a ton of information. Definitely go for it. Next book. Introductory Phonology by Bruce Hayes. This is another one of my old college textbooks. This will help you understand, okay, so phonology is how sounds interact with each other. And that's a really basic description, but yeah. So sounds affect each other. They become dissimilar and they become more similar. And that's what phonology gets into. So if you want to have like a really basic conlang, what you need to do is draw up a phonetic chart using proper phonetic symbols and using actual linguistic places and manners of articulation. And once you have that, then you figure out how the sounds affect each other. So this is really useful for figuring out what the shapes of the words will be. So in your language, if you have an N followed by a P, does the P become a T or does the N become an M? Because the place and manner of articulation rubs off on sounds a lot. Or does it stay NP? That's also something useful to know. Another thing I like to do when I'm conlanging is figure out how long words usually are. That has to do with morphosyntax. This book is a little bit harder. This book will blow your mind repeatedly into many little pieces and put it back together. Really, really fun. But it's also, this is a lot more difficult than the phonetics stuff. So this can help you with typology, figuring out if it's a language that has really long words, then it's going to have a very small phonetic inventory. And it's probably an agglutinative language, which means lots of little pieces glued together. An example of an agglutinative language is Japanese. So I'll bring out one of my favorite little phrases. Tabesase rare taku nakata. No, nakata. There we go. So that is 6 different units put together into a single word. And that single word is an entire sentence. It means I didn't want to have been made or forced to eat. That's what that long sentence in a single word means. So if you have an agglutinative language, lots of little pieces glued together, much longer words. Another thing, so I was mentioning word length and phonology. I just really briefly touched on it. So languages that have a very small number of phonemes, think Hawaiian, think Polynesian languages, think Japanese. They have much longer words because in order to differentiate words, you only have a limited number of phonemes. So you've got to have much longer words to make different words that you can tell the difference between. Yeah. So Sorry, I went on a real long ramble there, didn't I? That's like 20 minutes, I think. uh, so, yeah, that's what I think about people trying to imitate Tolkien's languages in their writing. They usually don't have any linguistic expertise, so it turns into a really poor imitation. One of the things that I see people doing a lot when they're imitating is they'll just have lots of nasals, lots of approximates. Approximates are L's, R's, W's, Y's. So you get lots and lots of those. A lot of nasals, N, M, ang. And a lot of fricatives, but only the ones we've got in English. So F, V, TH. Though they usually only use the soft TH, they don't use the voice TH. S. I don't see very many zh in there. Probably because they don't know how to spell it. So not very many Z's either. I think they usually stick to the more voiceless fricatives. So you get F, TH, S, SH, sometimes a Z or a V in there somewhere. But yeah, it's just remixing English phonemes, and they have very few in the way of stops showing up. I was working on Thalassian actually a few years back. So a fan of World of Warcraft contacted me, said that, hey, the conlanging in World of Warcraft for the Blood Elvish language is absolutely terrible. And I got a good gander at it. I said, yeah, that's pretty terrible. Inconsistent spelling. World of Warcraft, it's written kind of by a committee. A whole bunch of different writers, and apparently they're not sharing their conlanging efforts. So very inconsistent spelling, and the phonetic chart that I was able to put together based on the existing read examples, or the existing translations, was very, very lopsided. I think they only had T's. No, only K's. They only had K's. They didn't have any T's or P's. So, yeah, it was a real mess. And I had to do a lot of work to make it a little bit more symmetrical, a little bit more like an actual language. And that's a pretty, the World of Warcraft Elvish, that's pretty typical. That I see that in a lot of fantasy novels. People trying to be Tolkien without actually putting in the work. So, yeah. I should have some tea. Yeah. So has anybody here, other than Darbari, tried to make their own conlang in their fantasy series? Or tried to use languages in writing? Non-narrative languages in your stories? So, look, I should define that. A non-narrative language is, you have the narrative language, and then you have another language that you're putting in there. Usually to build a sense of setting or to flesh out a character, something like that. So there's several different ways that you can use it. You can so when you have dialogue, language, and such in the text that the reader can't understand, so you assume that your reader, like the common languages that you have with your reader, are just the narrative language. That's it. Though you have to account for the fact that if you're going to use real world languages, that in your audience there's going to be like a minority of, but there's still going to be some people who actually speak all the languages you're talking about. So you want accurate translations. Otherwise, you're going to insult that part of your audience. And they're going to go, ugh, this person doesn't know what they're doing. Out they go. So you want accurate translations. And when you have a fantasy language that, no one will speak, you want to make it feel like a real language. Sometimes people will just invent a writing system or something. That was something that really, really bothered me about the Artemis Fowl books. The fairy language was just English through a cipher. A really simple cipher, too, which you could very quickly solve. It was like one of those puzzles where, you have a sentence or a phrase. And this is actually a puzzle that you see in Sherlock Holmes books, and you learn how to solve it there. So you've got a sentence or a phrase, and they've just replaced the English letters with random other letters or random symbols. That's just what they did. Children's book. So yeah, you see that a lot in children's books. Very, very simple to decode. But yeah, if you're trying for a more adult audience, probably avoid that. Because that's like super lazy conlanging. You can make it look really creative and cool. And that is part of the challenge. And I shouldn't talk down about that. Making interesting ciphers has its place. But, when you're making a fantasy language, you're not going to have to develop very much grammar, usually, or vocabulary. You just want enough for, names, a few phrases, a few words, place names, things like that. You don't usually have to put that much development into it beyond the phonology, which is, I'd say the most important part. Because you want each language to have its own sound. And you want to be able to tell when you're, when the person's reading it, you want them to be able to tell that, oh, this is this group. This person's name's obviously this group, because it has that sound. Or it's got a word that they all end in, or something like that. But when you're using when you're actually using the language, like in dialogue and such, point of view is the most important part. So if your main character can understand that other language perfectly, without a shred of difficulty, they're bilingual, or that's their first tongue, and the whole story is about them in this particular context, speaking this language the whole time. then you do not want to actually have very many translations in it, because the point of view character, you want to be closer to them. You want to feel closer to them. Um, and that, to be in their shoes, you have to understand the dialogue as well as the character does. So if you're having a bunch of non-narrative phrases and such all over the place, non-narrative language phrases in there all over the place, then you're being distanced from the point of view of the character because you can't understand it as well as the character can. So you would have like all of that dialogue in the narrative language. And I know this is kind of counter to what a lot of people think when they are writing. I think that often they're trying to build setting, and actually, so the better way to use or to build the setting when you have characters that can speak all the languages involved and you're writing from their perspective, is to bring in words for things that that don't exist in our world, that do exist in their world. So, say there's a really popular type of tea and it's got a fancy name, everybody drinks it. Well, you take the word for that specific type of tea, you work it into the narrative, and Jackie really, really loves Morifun, the most delicious type of tea ever. It makes you awake and you feel great when you drink it. Have that worked into the narrative. And then you can casually refer to Morifun in, the dialogue. That is how you can build setting using language. Or say, like, all of the noble ladies have this very fancy, elaborate hairstyle, and and it has a special name. Well, you use that special name for that hairstyle while explaining what the hairstyle is, and ta-da, your audience has learned a word in the language. So you're kind of feeding vocabulary, teaching the vocabulary, and that builds the setting. One thing that I see people do a lot of is using honorifics and greetings. That's, if you teach them to your audience as you go along, that's okay. But you can't expect them to pick up on it like this. You gotta explain it a little bit, work it into the text. So, like, say, a girl is talking to a small younger child that she's looking after, and she has to explain to the child that because she's older than him, he really should be using the more polite honorific for her. That way you learn the difference between the honorific that the child was using. Maybe it's an honorific more suitable for a close friend, and then the honorific that you use for a female person who is above you or older than you, that you're supposed to show respect to. You can use this to inform on the culture, world building, and I find that kind of stuff, where you're using the text, the narrative, to teach parts of the language. You can't just throw them in unless you want the reader to feel alienated. And that actually is a very useful thing to do too. So your character bumbles into the wrong bar. It's full of orcs, and they all give a proper orcish greeting, but it's in orcish. audience can't tell, main character can't tell. They just are surrounded by a bunch of drunk orcs raising their flagons, yelling something at them. It's pretty scary and intimidating, and you know that is a much better use of um, you know untranslated or uh, language that the reader is not supposed to understand. So, um, yeah, I have a really long rant on that, don't I? Yeah, it was another 15 minutes. So, uh, guys, what do you want me to talk about next? As far as like writing using language, making languages, Tolkien's languages, specific words in Tolkien's languages. Ask away. And I'm going to drink some more tea because this is really good tea. My friend gave it to me. It's vanilla almond tea. Mm. Mm. Well, I like to mix it with uh, almond milk. I think that um, makes the flavor a little bit mellower. Because it can have a really strong flavor. So yes, people who are hanging out here, do not feel intimidated from asking questions in the chat. I am looking over here because that's where I can see the chat. They only briefly pop up on my phone, so I can see your message here. Go ahead and ask me any questions. And I may ramble for a while on it, so we can have fun. Either that or I talk about tea and my cat. And the fact that my allergies are going crazy from all the smoke in the air. Mm. No, actually, I think it's been improving a little bit. We had some rain a few days ago. So, that was nice. But, the smoke is on the wind, and the wind came barreling in, bringing in some more. So there you go. Nope, not sneezing. Not sneezing. So how many people here are writers or trying to be writers? I count fanfiction writing as writing. So, I got my start fanfiction writing, and it's nothing to be ashamed about. My first story was a very bad Mary Sue. Girl bamps into Middle Earth. But, by then I had already read, like, Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion, so I had a little bit of a head start. I had my character bamfing into the Second Age instead of, the War of the Ring and such. So, yeah, things are a little bit different, but still, it wasn't very good. I was like 15, not that great. My character met Galadriel, and I was like, okay, so Galadriel's got to speak some Elvish and weird her out. So I went and I started researching how to do that. My early translations were really, really bad, but I found that I was having way more fun with the translating than the fanfic, so here I am. It happens. But, you know, I still write. I got like 25, 26 chapters on that fanfic before I quit. Started rewriting it because I'm like, oh gosh, the beginning is so terrible, and the difference between beginning and an end is like so great. And then like few computer crashes, and I lost all of my work on there. I no longer like it's just not worth it trying to recover all that. So I have let it mold and gather dust. I also used to write fanfic for the Harry Potter fandom, but I found like the obsession with shipping in the Harry Potter fandom just really, really annoying. And there was all these shipping wars going on. People were flaming each other just for having the wrong ship in their fic. And if your fanfic didn't have any ships in it, then it was completely ignored or flamed because it didn't have their ship in it. It's like, you know what? It's not worth it. Not worth it. So I quit the Harry Potter fandom and deleted all my Harry Potter fanfics. Which is actually kind of sad because like my dad and I were working on a little comedy thing, crossover with Golem, or with bringing in Golem into Harry Potter prison system. We were having fun. And, you know, it was something that Dad and I were really enjoying. But nothing really came of it. Because I rage quit the Harry Potter fandom. So, we've got some more people here. So, go ahead, ask me questions about Tolkien's languages, about writing, using language, and such. Yeah, I rage quit the Harry Potter fandom. Finding good fic was just getting so hard because of the shipping wars. And I was tired of people saying, your fic's okay, but you should totally have Harry and Draco snogging. Oh, welcome back, Grace. Hi. I think we've got about 20 minutes left on the stream. And I was just on a little aside about how and why I quit the Harry Potter fandom. Well, what were you cooking, by the way? I wanted to find out. Yeah, the Harry Potter fandom. This was early 2000s. Was a very, very intense place to be. Hi, Tara. Nice to meet you. Is it Tara or Tara? It's hard to tell with English names sometimes. So yes, Grace, tell me about what you're cooking. And Tara, okay, so it is Tara. Okay, good. Beef stew, Moroccan meatballs, and spaghetti. Yum! Oh my gosh, that sounds delicious. Is this for like some sort of big event or something? Yeah, I keep looking over here where the chat is because my phone's up here on the bookshelf. Maybe I can turn it around and give you guys a glimpse of the bookshelf. Da-da-da! And we go down and we can see my linguistics textbooks. Yay! Here we go. Put that back into place. Is that right? Yeah, okay. Gonna go in the freezer later, but some friends are also. Oh, that sounds delicious. Have fun with that. Yeah. Recently I've been getting not really back into the Harry Potter fandom, but I've reread the Harry Potter books. And they really are comforting, I mean, the characters go through hell and such, but they come out the other side victorious. And, I really needed that. Yeah. Uh, I really love stories about people overcoming adversity. Yeah. Harry Potter, I started reading when I was 11. The books had already been out for a few years. Some of the books had been out for a few years. So, I was reading each book the same year that at the same age that I was at. Like, the characters were the same age that I was. That lasted until she started taking many, many years to finish the books. So. Yeah, and growing up with the characters like that, it was really, really fun. Yeah, that's how a lot of people experienced Harry Potter. It was the first books they read. Um, for me, like, that's not how it worked, but because I was already 11 when I started reading the books, so. Yeah. My little brother, Jethro, he used to look a lot like Harry Potter because he was super scrawny, had the wiry dark hair that I've got. And when I don't tame my hair in the morning, my hair sticks up, like anime style up. So yeah, his hair would do the same thing. And uh, yeah. Happy memories. Now my little brother is 6'6". Is a giant and no longer a scrawny little kid smaller than I am. So. Ooh, you're going to Comic-Con. Cool. Yeah, Harry Potter was kind of a gateway drug to a lot of fantasy for a lot of people. Yeah, but I had already been introduced to Tolkien by that point. I had already read The Hobbit. Uh, I hadn't quite started. Um, yeah, yeah, my brother's giant. Like, all us kids are really tall. I'm 5'10". My youngest brother is 5'4", or not 5'4", 6'4", and the middle brother is 6'6". So yeah, we're all really tall. um, but yeah, my folks, so my family, on every single spare bit of wall space, there's a bookshelf. Growing up, this is what it was like. My dad's bookshelves were full of sci-fi. My mom's books were full of fantasy. So I read like I grew up being surrounded by books, reading, and um, I was introduced to a lot of epic fantasy, from baby Fiona time. So I was already an avid reader by the time I got to Harry Potter. And the Harry Potter books are very easy to read, I found. Yeah, I never really got into Anne McCaffrey. But I remember her being like super popular when I was a kid. One of the books I read when I was pretty young was The Mists of Avalon, which was an eye-opener. So, yeah. Okay, to get more into the whole my folks really really into to reading sci-fi fantasy. So I stole a lot of my Lord of the Rings collection for early on from them. So we had the old paperbacks like from the 60s. I pretty much destroyed them reading them over and over and over again for Lord of the Rings. And my folks also had, this is, woo, yep, I knew I'd have to be careful. Yeah, this is, I gotta hold this up. So, this is a first edition copy of the Silmarillion, and I stole this from my parents' bookshelves. Yeah, I don't think they mind me absconding with all their Tolkien stuff because of where I've taken it, but yeah. This was in the bookshelves growing up. Okay, another one. I'll just have to be careful not to knock over my camera or my phone. I also had this growing up, The Unfinished Tales. Yeah, that was a little bit easier to not knock everything over with. I also had a first edition copy of the Book of Lost Tales, which I also stole. So, or this is the book 2, or part 2. It's not the first part. So, and you can tell by how well worn it is that my folks love this stuff. And, I come by my Tolkien obsession by, being born into a family that had already had that Tolkien obsession. My mother also, like before we were old enough to read, she read us like all of C.S. Lewis's books. I'm not kidding, not all those books, but all of his Narnia books. So I had all those well covered. And she also read us The Little House on the Prairie, and Anne of Green Gables. So I love the Anne of Green Gables books. I had a box set when I was a kid, and I just completely, wore it to pieces. Oh no, we have to go again, Grace. Bye-bye. Namarie. But yeah, I absconded with them. But instead, they now they've got a copy of my book. So this is my book, Fan's Guide to Neo-Sindarin. And in December, I'm gonna come out with a little workbook for writing English with Tengwar. Let's see. Where do I have that? It's over here. And I take it with me to conventions so that I have... it's kind of like my notes for one of the lectures that I give. But here we go. This is like working Tengwar, or working title only. I don't know what I'm gonna call it yet. And this is just like I printed off of the printer. It's in the background right there. Yeah. So working title is Write English with Tangwar. It's basically a workbook teaching you how to write the symbols and explaining how to use them. And this is going to be the most common general mode for writing English. I'm not going to get into any of the weirder stuff that you can do. And it's not going to be based on phonetic writing of English, because this is supposed to be something really simple, really easy to pick up. Audience is not linguists. So, this is a more scholarly audience book. People who want to actually learn about the language. This is very heavily researched, annotated. Like, I have tons of sources and such marked so people can get into the research if they want. But this one is not going to have sources marked. Like, there's going to be a section in here explaining, okay, this is where we get all this stuff from. But for the most part, it's going to be focused just on learning how to write using this writing system. And it's based off of things like dang it. Okay, maybe I can use this copy. So I have 2 copies of Lord of the Rings. One that I've almost completely destroyed because it's like been taped back together several times. And it's lost a lot of its opening pages. I don't know if it'll have it. Okay, like you could see a little, dang it. No, I've managed to destroy this one enough to lose that. Yeah. Okay, this one doesn't have the stuff in it, so I'm going to have to bonk my camera again, pull out the Lord of the Rings. I got another 3-in-1 copy. Okay. So you know how on the title page and such we've got this writing. Well, this is the basis that I'm using for this. Yeah. This one also is gathering its fair number of tags. Different projects. Okay, not bonky. Oh, bonked it anyway, so well. So yeah. My editor and I are working on this right now. It's mostly done, just getting it into a sellable point. Getting it to a sellable point. So, yeah. Ta-da! This will be my next book. And if you come up with a better title than Write English with Tangwar, let me know. Oh, we've only got 6 minutes left. So if you guys have questions, shoot, go ahead. Ask away. All Christmas wishes. I should have more tea. I like my tea lukewarm. So, ask away. We only have a few minutes left. And one's part of my bookcase here is mostly Tolkien books that I've destroyed by wearing them out. But like like this. It's got notations and such that I still use occasionally. So sometimes if I can't find something in that one, I can go, okay, I'll find it here. Also, do you guys like the cell phone recording instead of instead of my old laptop? This old guy. Poor thing. Poor laptop. It no longer connects to the internet, which is frustrating and annoying. It no longer connects to the internet, and the left click button for the mouse pad doesn't work anymore. And I've pretty much destroyed the keyboard writing this. So yeah, I have a fancy new desktop. So nice. You can see the glow over here. Ta-da! See if we could get like... It's like an endless stream. Okay, sorry, I'm being dorky, aren't I? There we go. Oh, and I'm so glad to have a new computer. It's so much faster than the old one. And it connects to the internet without like having to sacrifice a small goat or do a special dance. Though it doesn't have like a camera built into it, so I will need to I think install some sort of webcam to it so I can do this more easily. So let me know if you guys really like using my cell phone like this. It's not a fancy cell phone or anything. It's pretty darn cheap, in fact, but it seems to be decent-ish. So. Snork. Yeah. The smoke's been pretty thick lately. And the light is still gray outside. And I believe that downstairs we've got a house full of Dungeons and Dragons players. Happens every weekend. But it's okay. I'm not missing because I usually don't participate. I get too bored waiting for my turn. Start doing other things. And then I start annoying everybody because I got all distracted and didn't realize it's my turn yet. So yeah, I don't really do Pathfinder. I like Pathfinder when it's a very small group. I like Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder and such. When it's a really small group, max 4 people, 2-3 people. And yes, my chair allows me to go back this far. It's okay. I'm not gonna fall over. And if I fell over, I'd fall onto another little table right behind me. Because everything is a mess right now. And I've got boxes. And wrapping bags. And spacer pads, everywhere. Just absolutely everywhere. It's a mess in here. Thank you. Okay, It is 2 o'clock. It has been 2 hours. So I think I will call this the end of the stream. So I'll see you guys next week, also on Sunday. It's been lovely chatting with you all. Namarie! See if I can figure this out. Do I want to stop streaming? Oh, okay. Yes. Okay.